Hello. Ooh, that was very loud. Hey, welcome everyone. Guess what time it is? It's 9 o'clock Central Standard Time on a Friday. It's LiveDraw time. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Well, greetings, all you happy people. It's nice to be back. I'm really excited. This is what I do every Friday night. I have an hour, and I spend that hour talking to you, sometimes talking to myself, and then drawing for a little bit of time. And some of you hang out with me and chat with me live, which is really great. And some of you watch after the fact. Hi, everybody who's watching after the fact. I appreciate that. If you're watching now, I would love it if you would give this video a like, or if you're on Facebook, a heart or something like that. And then if you do, I can give you a little shout out. So let me know you're here. I hear from people sometimes that they were here and then they don't tell me until afterwards. And I go, well, that doesn't do me any good. How am I supposed to acknowledge you? But maybe you like lurking. And if you're one of the lurkers, because I know I have some lurkers, hello to you as well. I know some of you are who you are, because I have ways of finding out who watches. And if you're lurking and you know me, I see you. I see you out there. Anyway, thanks for being here no matter what, even if you're feeling shy. I do appreciate it. What's been going on with me? And what do I have in my hands? In my hands here, I have a stack of drawings, as per usual. And what am I doing with these drawings right now? Well, I'm trying to organize them numerically so I can have this scene in order so that I can get ready to put it away. Why would I be putting my scene away, you may be asking? Oh, I just got a heart from someone. Hello. Hey, it's Rachel Mikey over on Facebook. Thank you so much for hearting this video and being here tonight. I like when people are here in the moment. It's always nice. Why would I be getting ready to put this video or this stack of drawings away, you may be wondering? Well, the answer to that is because this is scene 24, and I finished scene 24 mostly. And so I'm getting ready to put it away because it's basically done. But I saved an in-between. I have one more in-between that I want to do, and I saved it to do it tonight on the LiveDraw. But I also have some interesting drawings in this stack that I kind of want to share with you guys live. And I figured I'll do a little bit of that. Let's do a little bit of that right now. We'll do a little bit of show and tell right now. And hello, if you're watching on Facebook, hi out there. All right, so let me give you a little bit of background on this scene. So scene 24, I think I was working on it last week, and I ended up finishing the main part of scene 24, but I finished it like over the weekend. And then this week, I started in on what was formerly scene 25. But if you were here last week, you'll recall that I have decided to incorporate old scene 25 into scene 24. So they have become merged together. So the part that I've been working on all week, I have lovingly been referring to as scene 24 and a half. It is still scene 24. But because it's like this very, very short scene, it's only 1.5 seconds long. Originally, I was going to do a camera cut, and then so the camera was going to cut, and then we were going to see this scene that was going to be 1.5 seconds. And then I decided, you know what? That's not going to work as well as I thought it would. It's not going to be as funny. It might be a little bit of a confusing camera cut and a little bit disorienting to the viewer. So I figured, okay, this is one of those times where I can change what was on my storyboards and I decided to merge the two scenes together, therefore making scene 24 even longer. So scene 24, which is basically done, is now clocking in at 11 and a half seconds, which is pretty cool. And I've got my boards up on my wall, and I was looking at my boards today and going, I have 2 scenes remaining in this sequence, and then this sequence is done, and then I'll be starting on the warehouse, which is a giant chunk of the cartoon. The warehouse is in storyboard form. It's 7 pages long, and for a bit of perspective, the sequence that I just got done, or that I'm almost done with, I'm still working on it, but the sequence that I'm almost done working on is, how many pages long is that? 1, 2. Actually, like almost like 1.5. So the current sequence I'm working on is 1.5 to 2 pages of my storyboards, and the next sequence is 7 pages of storyboards. So it may take me a while. Now, I will say this. The big sequence that's coming up, that's in the warehouse, a lot of the scenes are very quick. They're going to be like somewhere between 1 and 3 second scenes. Like a bunch of them are going to be that way. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm kind of curious. I don't think I have a lot of scenes in the warehouse that are going to be super long. There is one scene, I'm looking at it right now on the boards, and it's a walk cycle, and I have new guy walking past like a bunch of stuff in the background in the warehouse. And for me, I kind of want to make the warehouse be this repository for Easter eggs. And by that, I mean a bunch of like hidden references from previous Retail Sunshine comics, and maybe even references to stuff that I've done that's not from Retail Sunshine. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some livestock references in there. I don't know. We'll see. I actually haven't decided yet. But a lot of those things are going to be something that I decide when I'm making the background. And I don't know that I'm going to make the background right now, because a lot of the backgrounds I've been skipping over. I'm just focusing mainly on character animation. And part of that is because I'm trying to keep momentum with all the character animation. I want the character animation to just keep moving forward, so that as quickly as I possibly can, I'll have a, completed rough version of the whole cartoon. And then when the whole cartoon is roughed out, then that's when I can start fine tuning, and I can go and focus on a scene. Excuse me. And cleaning up all the pencil work and detailing the background and inking it in virtually and adding sound effects and music and all that stuff. So there's a lot more to go. But really, before I can, I do have a composer for this cartoon. The sound effects I'll be doing myself. I love doing Foley. I think it's a lot of fun. And it's a really creative thing to do, to basically come up with sound effects. So so anyway, but as far as the composing of the music is concerned, the composer can't do that without having a cartoon in front of them for timing. So the plan is to get this thing penciled and roughed out, and then send that rough cut to my composer, and then he can start writing the music. And while he's writing the music, because I'm not going to rush him, I'm not going to be in a rush to have the music. While he's doing that, I can then be going back and perfecting all the different scenes. And at some point, presumably, while I'm still cleaning up the whole cartoon, at some point he'll get with me and go, hey, how's this? Here's the music I've made. And assuming that it's great right away, I will then have a music track that I can lay underneath the video, and then I can like watch it and see how it works. And if we need to make corrections, then there's still plenty of time to make corrections, because the cleanup process and doing all the backgrounds that's going to take a while. That's going to take a little while. Hey, I just got a thumbs up on Facebook from Courtney Stottlemyre. Thanks so much, Courtney. I appreciate you. Thanks so much. I don't know if you guys are sticking around to hang out with me or if you're just tossing me a like and then vamoosing, but feel free to stick around and say hi in the chat. Or don't. It's fine. Anyway, so this stack of drawings is scene 24 and a half, and gosh, I really don't think that's going to work again. So I'm going to try from this side, perhaps. Yeah, there's a little bit of stuff happening here. Well, anyway, there's a few drawings that I had to redo in this scene, and I'm going to show you a couple of them and how their two different versions of themselves looked. Why did I redraw these things? I'll explain a little bit of that. Let's go into that for just a second. I'm going to put this stack of drawings over here out of the way. I have my two drawings on my board that I would like to... Oh, hi, and to chat. Very cute. Okay. Well, the reason why I asked you to do that also is because I have a little counter in my corner that tells me who's watching right now, and I've noticed that it doesn't match up. And so I'm always curious if my counter is telling me one thing and then if like what is actually happening. And you just help me prove yet again that the counter in the corner of my screen and who is in the room, they don't match up. So thank you for that. So this was originally frame 11 of this scene. I'm not using it anymore. Just the location of New Guy's eyes I didn't love. I didn't love the shape of the mouth. I didn't love his hair. I could have just erased it and made changes, but I instead decided to like just go straight with a different drawing. And then it was one of those things where I wasn't sure if I was going to clean this one up or not. And then when I made the new drawing, I was like, oh, I guess the new drawing is better. I don't need this one anymore. And so I just replaced it. So I didn't go into it knowing I was going to replace this. I thought maybe I could incorporate this still into the scene. And then I ended up realizing, oh, it's better if I just don't incorporate it. Here's the replacement drawing. It's a lot better. It is dealing more with foreshortening. You can tell New Guy is like lifting his head back. His hair is kind of further back. His chin is further up. His eyes are further up onto his head. You can see more underneath where his eyelids are. There's a bunch of reasons why this is a better drawing. This is the one I ended up using. Now, animation paper is expensive, and so there's a good chance I'm going to erase this other one and try to get some use out of this paper. I just haven't done that yet. I'm not going to get sentimental about drawings that I don't use. I refuse. That's just a silly thing to do. I'm already nostalgic about everything else. So what I'll probably end up doing, maybe even tonight while I'm talking with you guys, is I may just go back and erase this drawing completely because I'm not using it. I already removed it from the timeline, and it's not being used. So thank you so much to Kaja Blackley is here all the way from Canada. Holy moly. Thanks for the thumbs up and for being in the LiveDraw chat. All right, so what am I working on tonight? Well, I saved an in-between, and let me explain a little bit about these two drawings and what I'm going to be doing tonight. So, okay, so this image here, in scene 24, this image is blurred out, but it's in the foreground. And so that way the camera is focusing on what's like in this area here, which is my other character in the scene, which is the tech gal. And the tech gal is talking and taking up all of the scene for herself, while New Guy is just standing there like blurred. When she's done doing her thing, there's a focal shift where she turns blurry and he turns into focus again. And then he goes ahead and has his dialogue for like 1.5 seconds. Well, to get to that 1.5 seconds, I have him like turning around and facing the camera. But what I didn't realize when I was making this drawing was just how far I wanted him to turn around and come into the frame, because I want him to cover up Tech Gal's face entirely. Why do I want to do that? Well, for one thing, having him moving around the screen itself is more interesting to look at. There's always multiple reasons for things. The other reason is Tech Gal ends up freezing like a freeze frame. Like she says her thing and then she stops moving and she freezes in a very like specific pose. And I would rather not draw attention to the fact that she's frozen. I could have made more drawings where she goes into that pose and then comes out of it. I could have done that and put her in a more of a resting pose, but I really didn't want to do that. It just didn't seem like it was necessary. I do want her to kind of hold that pose for a little while. So timing wise, it made more sense if as soon as she goes into that pose and locks into position, new guy turns around and ends up covering her up. And so then it doesn't matter if she was locked in that pose. So that's a little bit of like my thought process on how I navigate a scene. So what am I working on tonight? Well, all of that to tell you is I've got 2 drawings here, and both of them are new guy at a like facing away from the audience angle. But even though these 2 drawings overlap like pretty close, you can kind of see the one right next to the other one. On screen, I actually separated them out, and so the distance is more like this. And it does work, but it could work a little bit better if I had at least one in between where he starts to leave the one position and then skips a bunch of space and then ends up in the next position. So it's going to work better if I do that. So I'm going to do that in between tonight, and that's going to enhance the scene a little bit, make it feel a little bit more resolved, I guess, a little bit less skippy. I may need more in-betweens, but I don't think I will. In fact, the scene works right now as it stands, but I just played it through a bunch of times before I came on here, and I was like, you know, if there was just one more drawing there, even just one more, it would make it better. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to work on that, and then I'll see if that is enough to make the scene feel the way I want it to. We'll see if it does. If it doesn't, I guess I'll have to do another in-between, but I'm not really expecting to do that. Courtney says, seems to me there is a deep correlation between scene blocking in theater and this thought process. Do you draw on previous theater knowledge for any of this? That is an excellent question and a very astute observation, Courtney. And the answer to that is yes, very much so. I spent much of my childhood and young adulthood on stage, like a lot of it. Like I would be in a play almost every year. So I'm very familiar with blocking and ways that an actor will stand on stage so as not to speak to the back. You know, you always want to speak to the audience. So I'm always thinking about that. Obviously, new guy in this scene is facing away from the audience, but he's also blurred out, and he's essentially part of the background. When he finally becomes active again, he immediately faces to the audience. So yes, to answer your question, all of that is stuff that I pull from my background in theater. Very, very much so. There's also a principle in animation in general where I'm sure I'm not 100% of the time adhering to this, but I do try to keep it in mind. You ideally want to draw your characters in such a way that if for some reason they suddenly turned into a silhouette, that you would still be able to read, if not who they are, you could at least read what their pose was conveying. Like you could look at them in silhouette and go, oh, I can see that character is about to throw a baseball because he's got his hand like this. And, you know, like this is the pose, right? And not like this. Not this is the pose. This is harder to read. If you put me in silhouette right now, this doesn't really tell you what I'm doing. So now, obviously, like I don't think every drawing can adhere to that standard, but As a general principle of blocking in animation, I think it's good to just keep that in mind, because you'll end up getting more dramatic poses that way, and the animation will just read clearer. If you're thinking about it in terms of like, if this person was in silhouette right now, would I be able to tell what they're doing? So yeah, it's a pretty good way to do things. By the way, the number I'm seeing of people in the room right now says 0. I know that's not true because I'm getting comments coming in, but I just wanted to point out, whenever you hear me talking about like encouraging people talking, this is why I'm doing it. It's because a lot of times the counter will say 0 or 1 or something like that, when in reality there's more people in the room. I just don't know it. So I always appreciate knowing who is here. It makes it a little bit nicer to be able to address people directly, if you feel so bold to do that. If you don't and you want to hang out and lurk, I guess that's your prerogative as well. All right, I'm going to start this in between, because I really would like to get this image drawn, because I have an interesting week ahead of me. Without getting into too much detail, I'm going to be visiting with family for like a significant amount of time. And because of that, I will not be doing a live draw next week. So I know everybody's so sad. Maybe I'll do one. I'm just going to say I'm not going to do one right now because I don't know what's going to happen next week, and there's a good chance that I won't. However, if things change for some reason and I suddenly have the time to do a live draw, I'll just do it. I'll just go live. And so just, if you're subscribed to me on YouTube and you have notifications turned on, which is the little notification bell, if you have that turned on, you'll always get notified when I do a live stream or when I post a new video. So please be sure to be subscribed, and you'll be in the know if I go live next week. But there's a chance I won't, because I may be visiting with family still. In any case, I'm finishing up scene 24. I'm in my mind, I'm finishing it up probably tonight. This is probably like the last drawing of scene 24. And part of why I'm setting it up that way is because, knowing I'm going to be taking a break and visiting with family for a while, I kind of don't want to, like, it's better for me if I don't stop things in the middle of a big scene. So I will not be starting scene, or I won't likely be starting scene 25 for a little while. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll start boarding or I already have it boarded, but maybe I'll start like blocking out the keyframes. I don't know. We'll see. But scene 25, I don't know when I'm going to start working on it. It should be soon. If I don't do a live draw on Friday of next week, then I think next weekend, I will probably start working on scene 25. And then when I come back the following Friday, I will be updating you on where scene 25 is. So there's a possibility that all of these things could happen, and I don't even know which one it'll be. It's like the weather. It changes without warning. But I'm very happy to be wrapping up scene 24. Let me tell you that before I go and visit family. Because I don't like feeling like I left something unfinished like that. It would be very weird for me. For me, it would be weird. All right, so that's where that goes. Anyway, it's probably more information about my personal life than anybody really wanted. All right, well, what's going on here? Okay. All right, I'm gonna kind of get back into this. And And I don't expect this drawing to take me too long because I'm just doing a quick in-between. I'm also really trying not to get like too precious. I know I've said that before. It's a little bit of me trying to remind myself not to get too precious with these rough drawings, because they're rough drawings. That's the thing. Like, it's a good idea to sort of get them on paper and move on and not get too hung up on things, because they're not the final drawing. And if I make them a little too permanent and then I realize I want to change it later, well, now I've made it harder for me because now I have to go in and erase everything, which I will probably be doing some erasing here in a little bit of the two drawings that I'm not going to end up using. Okay. It's a little weird to draw the back of New Guy's head. His curly hair is something that I typically draw from the front. And that was a decision I had to make when I was designing. I think I do it in the comics a couple times. I think there's a couple shots of the back of his head. So it's not something I had to invent for this cartoon, but it is something I don't do very often in general. And so I'll tell you, this project, one of the things it's been really good for me, it's like becoming familiar with all of the angles of my characters that I don't typically draw, and how their faces are pliable and things like that in ways that I really haven't had to mess with before. Hey, I just got a heart from, or a like from Wayne Carnegie. Hey there, Wayne, over on Facebook. Appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so I've definitely been learning a lot more about who my characters are. Like, I've been messing with their personalities, and also I would say probably one of my favorite things of this whole process has been trying to lock down some nuance in different characters' faces, because a lot of the characters in Retail Sunshine look very similar to each other. That was by design originally when I started the comic strip. But now that I'm doing these more elaborate stories with animation, it's a little bit challenging, because it's like I want these characters to look like they're different people. I don't want them to look all like identical. So it's coming down to like sometimes changing like their height in ways that I maybe didn't show in the comics. Sometimes it comes down to what do their pupils do. That's kind of a thing I'll mess with. Like, are their pupils different sizes? You know, what does it look like when they turn around? Do they have a chin? I don't draw noses on the characters, and I am trying to stay true to my original designs that I started back in the day. I'm trying to stay true to those, but I am finding that I still need to make some more defining characteristics about everybody. So that's been an interesting journey, is like coming up with things or locking in details about hairstyles and things like that I never really messed with too much before. There wasn't really a reason to do it. I mean, because if you draw a character only a few times and you kind of get their hair sort of right, then that works. But this is one of those times where sort of right will translate to, this person looks like they don't know what they're doing, because that drawing is moving like it has a mind of its own and not in a good way. So yeah, that's defining what the on-model look is of each character. That has definitely been a challenge for me. There's only so many characters in this cartoon, so but like the ones that I'm drawing the most, like New Guy, I'm really starting to intimately understand what makes him look the way that he does. And so that's been what I've been working on. Right now I'm just drawing all the curls on the back of his head in the hopes that it will look intentional, that when he turns his head, it makes sense. I had to redo a bunch of his curls on some other frames for later on in this scene, and that's what I was working on yesterday. So I had to do that. And let me turn my camera around. I forgot to do that. I may end up going back and making additional changes, but I'm not sure yet. And the changes I already made definitely look better. So I'm feeling pretty good about what I worked on last night. So I may not make a bunch of changes to the things that I've already changed. But what I've been telling everybody is if I can get a scene to look like it's maybe 90% of the way of what I'm envisioning, then I try to let it go a little bit and move on, because if I don't do that, then the momentum gets killed, and then it's hard to keep going. It's because it's just such a giant project, so it can be really difficult to maintain momentum on something of this nature. And if it's 90% where I need it to be, then odds are it's not as big of a deal as I maybe think it is in the moment. And also, when I go back to do cleanup animation, I can always catch it then. And odds are by that point, because I would have given myself some distance from that scene, odds are I'll see something in a little bit of a different light at that point and may want to change it for other reasons. So there's this delicate balance in a project like this of knowing when to say, that's good for now. I may come back and tweak it later, but for now, it's good enough to move forward and then analyze at another point in time. Case in point, I went back and I didn't play it, but I went back and looked at the early, like the very earliest scenes. And my goodness, looking at those early scenes, it's the same cartoon, but I'm already looking at it going, oh man, I got to fix this character's face. He doesn't look like himself. And so I have to figure out, well, what does that mean? Why doesn't he look like himself? What about this drawing would make it look more like him? What do I have to fix? And that's something I'm going to have to answer, but not going to mess with it quite yet. I'm going to wait till I get through the entire cartoon before I go back and retool all the original stuff. I'm going to wait a little bit. So, time and space away from something usually gives you some different perspectives. And then when you've been drawing something over and over and over again, you naturally get a different perspective. Because your drawings are hopefully improving. And if you're improving, then you're going to start to see where things don't work. That's kind of how that works. All right, so I think I just finished this in between, and it's not like super dramatic. It's just a little bit of a tilt, but yep, it's definitely working. What's gonna happen is, well, see, that's interesting. I may want to change that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I want to change that. His shoulder, I'm not sure if I want to redo his shoulder, because his shoulder right now comes in front of his face, and I'm unclear if I want it to stay like that, but I may keep it like that. We'll see. Anyway, where was I going with that? So naturally, over time, your drawing is going to get better, and if that happens, or as that happens, not if, it's going to happen. As that happens, you have to then decide, like, okay, well, is the stuff I was doing before still keeping in line with the character, or is something not right here? And I want to do that. Well, actually, I do like how that looked. I'm going to put it back on there. But I might have to change and adjust the frame that comes after it. Let's see. Do I want to do that? Well, I'll just scan it and see how it works. I may need to adjust one of these previous frames. Hey, I think I just got a little bit of a like from Vinnie Paul over on Facebook. Thanks so much, Vinnie. And a heart from Victoria Goodman. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, so I think this in between is good. And I don't know if it's going to do exactly enough what I needed to do, but I still have time during this live stream. I'm going to go ahead and scan this in, and I'm going to take a look at it. You won't be able to see it, but I will. One of these days, I think what I'll end up doing is I'll share my screen and show maybe some progress. We'll see. Either I'll do that, or I kind of want to like do a watch along with Sparking Sunshine and talk a little bit about that. If that's something that you would be interested in, please let me know. I think a watch along could be cool. Let's see. Let's get this scanned. I do need to fix that shoulder. Oh, I do. All right. Well, that's good. I just caught something. Okay. There's like so many little things that you can catch to try to make something work better. So let's move that over there a little bit. Is that working? That looks pretty good. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. That looks good. All right, so that's working. All right. And we're going to close that. And now that I know that that's working, I'm going to take that frame back and I'm going to adjust this other frame that I already had. Because his shoulder was looking like it wasn't moving in a way that would be logical. I'm going to adjust that. Go with that. Maybe like darken that frame a little bit. I'm being a little too precious about it, but I know I'm going to be rescanning it right now, and I'm like, let's just make it look a little bit better so I don't feel like it was a waste in a rescan. Alright, I'm going to scan that. See what happens. And we're going to save that image. Let's see here. So we're going to save that as 5B. Great. We'll scan that one, and then we'll get on our way. All right, cool. Anyway, oh, I have some comments coming in. Hey there. Hey, Vinny Paul. Watch along sounds fun. Give me another reason to binge on popcorn. Oh, you don't need another reason. Works through some things. What are you working? What things are you working through, Vinny? Yeah, good music, right? Who needs logic? I agree. Logic is overrated. All right, let's see how this drawing turned out. And then I might be done with the scene. And then I can talk a little bit about the next scene, I suppose. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right, so we're going to save that. Quick little adjustments. One of the things I love about how this system works, I will tell you that, like, if anybody were to see my process, like how I actually make all this happen, they would think I'm crazy for the way I'm doing it. Probably. I don't know. I always imagine that's what everyone's thinking. What I like about it is, for images that I already have set up on my timeline, if I adjust the image, I don't have to bring it back into my timeline. Excuse me. It's already there. All I needed to do was save the image, and then it updates in my timeline. And so it's just like, it's like real time. It's really great. You're watching me work. Oh yeah, I was working through some things. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so okay, so what I was doing right now is I was adjusting the shoulder on new guy here. I was kind of like raising his shoulder up a little bit because he's like turning around, and when I looked at it just now, my eye just like noticed his shoulder like wasn't moving consistently with him turning around like this. And so I was like, oh, I gotta fix that. But that's what I mean, like, about not getting too precious, is I could sit here and try to work a scene into the ground, or I can get it like mostly good, and then realize that when I move forward and work on other scenes, I will eventually come back and look at it and go, oh, okay, that doesn't really work the way I thought, and I'll just fix it then. So I'm trying not to get too obsessive about any one scene right now, so that I can go ahead and like make some steady momentum forward. Hey, Consuelo's here. Thanks so much for the heart. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. And hello to whoever's watching on YouTube. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. You caught me on a night where I'm wrapping up scene 24 on this cartoon, which is really cool. And I will probably be starting scene 25 sometime in the very, very near future. Let's see here. What's going on? That's D5 and that's D6. Right. So what I want to do is I want to move everything over by one frame. For those of you who are wondering what I mean when I say by one frame, let's see, how do I explain that? Frames are measured on my video timeline, or I should say images are measured in like how long the frame is on the screen for. And if I were to be animating on the ones, which is a term that it's an industry term referring to, I don't know if that did what I wanted it to do. Let's see, hold on. Oh, it kind of does. No, I gotta move them a little bit. All right, okay. It's all right. It's okay. I just saw that right now, and I can now see that there's a little bit of an issue with where he is. If I was animating on the ones, like, okay, let me put it this way. A frame is the length of time that a frame is on screen is 1/24th of a second. So if 1 second is made up of like 24 images, if I say I'm going to leave it up there for a frame, that means I'm leaving it up on screen for 1/24th of a second, right? Yeah. If there's 24 frames in a second, one of those 24, 1/24th. So the drawing I just made tonight is probably going to be on screen for 1/24th of a second. So you're not even going to really realize it's there. The problem is if you don't put those kinds of images in there that connect parts, like, you know, one guy here from one guy here, if you don't put those in there, then it just reads as if the character is like blinking, like almost teleporting. It doesn't read as if that they're moving from point A to point B. So you have to have those other frames in there, even if they're only there for like a split second, because that's how your eye registers with your brain that there's movement happening. There you go. I felt like I had to do that when writing jokes too, rewriting and rewriting when I already had a solid punchline. Yeah, I like that you're bringing up comedy, particularly because that's what I'm working on here is a comedy. Yeah, and I was just talking with a friend about this recently, that there is something to be said for knowing when to not overwork something, which I imagine is true in comedy too, because you can overwork something in any artistic field. And yeah, that's something that I worry about is, am I overworking something? I think it's just something that you have to kind of sense. You have to kind of like feel it. You know, you watch whatever it is you're making, or you're listening to a recording of whatever it is you're doing, and you have to be able to like ask yourself objectively, which that's freaking hard to do. How are you able to be objective when you're the one that came up with it? And what's even harder to be objective is you already know, as the creator of the thing, you already know what your intention is. You know what you're going for. You know where the laugh is supposed to be. You know all the things that are on the screen, or in the comedy bit or whatever. So in order to be objective, you have to sort of pretend you don't know and ask yourself, if I'm hearing this for the first time or watching this for the first time, like, how is this impacting me? Vinny says, totally agree. Hammer meets nail. Yeah, absolutely. But that's really tough. I mean, and I'm not just saying this to, like, you know, inflate the importance of the writer or the creator. I'm just saying there's a real legitimate difficult thing in creating something and then being able to step outside of yourself long enough to look at it and go, all right, I'm trying to look at this as if I don't know what it is. Is this funny? And that's hard to do because you already know the joke and you've gone over it so many times in your head that it's not funny anymore, right? So then how, as the writer, how do you come up with something that stays funny? That is such a hard thing to do. And I think the same thing with animation. Like, part of why I try to come up with different things for me to make my characters do is because I want to keep it interesting. And it's not just like to entertain the audience. Of course I want to entertain the audience, but it's also for me. I mean, like, I have to entertain me before I can entertain you. If I'm not entertained, then it'll never make it to you. You won't ever see it, because if I'm not feeling good about it for me, I'm not going to want to share it with you. That's how it works. So you have to be your own audience. You have to try to please yourself in service of the story, because if you don't, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I don't think that's a selfish thing. I think it's like you have to do that. I also think as a creator, why wouldn't you want to enjoy the thing that you're making? You absolutely should enjoy it. Now, I understand there's a lot of actors who say that they can't watch themselves after they've done something because they're too critical of themselves. And I understand that. Trust me. That's another eternal artist problem, is how do you make something that has staying power and that you won't become sick of looking at? I don't really have a good answer for you other than to say, try to latch on to something that you know is a comforting thing that already, like, that you appreciate seeing in other people's work. So in other words, if you know that you really like fart jokes, this is a bad example, but it's the one I came up with. If you know you love fart jokes, you're like, oh man, a good fart joke is hard to beat. And then you're going to go and try to make something funny. I'm saying you should put a fart joke in there, because you already know that it's like a soft spot for you, and that for you it's something that you enjoy. So, you're already doing something that you think is funny. And then if you do that and you believe in it, then whatever you're feeling when you're making that thing, it's going to carry into the project. And then if you were like, man, this is so funny, and you're working on it, then I think that on the other end of that, you're going to get something that's going to be the embodiment of your emotions. And if your emotions were, man, I don't really like this is kind of stupid, then I think it's going to read sort of unclear and maybe unfunny. So it's really important to have the buy-in. I'll give you a different analogy. I used to be in retail sales. Obviously, that's where my comics are based on. And I had a real hard time selling things to people when I was a salesperson if I didn't believe in them. If I thought the thing I was selling was something that, like, people didn't need, then I can tell you right now, it wasn't going to sell, because I didn't believe in it. So I would always tell whoever was my boss, if they were wanting me to focus on selling something specifically, I would tell them, like, I need a reason. I need to know why this is the thing we're selling. Is it really going to make people's lives better? Because if it is, you got the right guy on the job. I will tell everybody this is going to make their lives better. But if I think you guys are just trying to get me to sell something just for the sake of selling it, that's harder for me to do. I can't really fake that. Not for very long anyway. I can't fake it for very long. So all of that to say, if you're a creative person, you need to have the buy-in on your own work. You need to believe in it, because if you're trying to sell it to the world, the best way to do that is to put everything that you have into it. And then the next person who sees it is going to be like, wow, I'm really picking up something off of whatever this is. I'm really getting a sense of who they are just by looking at it, right? And I think the same goes for you as your own audience member. I think if you put actual passion into something and then you look at it years later, I think you'll be able to look back on it and go, you know what? Yeah, I could totally see like this really is speaking to me still. So always believe in whatever it is that you do, as best you can. Otherwise, I don't see a point in doing it. Really, I mean, to me, that's the reason behind telling a story or doing anything creative is you have to have an overwhelming desire to turn whatever is going on in here into something tangible. And if you don't believe in it, it's so hard to see a project all the way to its completion. It's so hard to do it. It just feels like a chore if you do that. If you don't really believe in what you're doing. So that's kind of my takeaway for this evening, I guess, is believe in what you're doing wholeheartedly and put that energy into whatever you're doing, because it translates on the other side. I don't know why it translates on the other side. I can't tell you what like the metaphysics are of that, but I truly believe that that's what happens. It reminds me of for a while I worked over the phone, doing sales and doing tech support, and something that when I was being trained, something that I was told was, if you're smiling while you're talking, people can hear the smile on the other side. And there's something about, we've associated the sound of what someone sounds like when they're smiling, right? But to me, that's the same thing. It's like if you're actually smiling and you're having a sense of joy about it, people will hear that on the other side. So, well, for whatever reason that happens and works, it does. It just does. That's the reason I will give you, because it does. Because I said so. That's why. Anyway, oh gosh, we're nearing the end of an hour already. So I was able to get one new drawing, one new in between done tonight. Potentially the last in between of scene 24. I might be, as of right now. I won't make this decision until tomorrow at least. I usually give myself 24 hours after I finish a project. I give myself a day or two, and then I come back and look at it again the next day, and I go, all right, does it really still feel like it's like where it needs to be? Can I really move on to the next part? So I'll know probably tomorrow or Sunday if I finally have wrapped this scene up. If I have, then I will jump in to scene 25 very, very soon. I don't know if it'll be in the next week because, again, I'm going to be visiting family starting tomorrow, and I might be taking like multiple days away from this project. I hesitate to say how many days. So anyway, if you've been here tonight, I really appreciate you popping in. If this is your first time here, my name's Phil. I'm making a cartoon on paper by hand, and I currently have 2 minutes and 18 seconds completed, in case you were wondering. The scene that I was working on tonight that is probably finished is 11 and a half seconds long. So for me, that's a pretty big scene. And if you've liked what you've seen tonight, or you want to see more, or you just feel very positive and uplifting, please drop me a like and subscribe on YouTube. I would really appreciate that. Let's see, what's Vinny saying? Next episode, Machi metaphysics. Yes. And if you see my friend Vinny here making a comment, that's your invitation out there as well to be in on the conversation. Oh, Cryptic Critic. Hey, wow, always happy to see you. Sorry I missed a few weeks. Life, Have a great night, Phil. Hey, it's great to see you again. Really glad to have you here. When next we meet in this space, everybody. Sorry, I just caught the tail end. That's okay. You can always go back and watch from the beginning if you like. I know I won't be responding to you live, but if you make a comment and I'm not doing it live, I will still go back and reply. So, but when next we meet in this space, I will probably be working on scene 25, which is really exciting for me. I mean, it's cool. I've been working on scene 24 for a while, and the last 3 scenes before that were all like 15 seconds each. So this one I thought was going to be like a walk in the park, and here it was another 11.5 seconds. It's not a bad thing. It's just they're just very involved scenes, and it can be tiring to go from one involved scene to the next. The last two scenes I've got in this sequence, I will I'll point out to you right now. So I've got this. So this is where I was tonight, and then this is like that chart. It's like, show me on the chart how are you feeling today. So this scene here, this is actually part of the same scene. And I know it says 28 and 28A. Just ignore that. These were the ways that I numbered things in the beginning, and the numbers have changed over time because that's what happens. But anyway, this is one scene, and after this scene, I won't be drawing her anymore for the rest of the cartoon. This is like her last scene in the whole cartoon, unless I go back and like make her a background character somewhere, which I could do, but that likely wouldn't happen until like the very last scene of the whole cartoon. So for all intents and purposes, after this scene, she's done for now. Anyway, so that's a scene, and then that is a scene, and that one's probably not going to take very long at all because it's just the image of this computer screen being rotated. Okay, that's going to be what that is, and that's probably not going to take me very long. This might take me a little while, but I don't think this particular scene is going to be much more than like 3 or 4 seconds. I don't think it's going to be very long at all. And I'm telling you that because I'm saying it's a little bit exciting for me to be approaching some scenes that maybe I can knock out in a week. In fact, the scene I was just working on tonight, I was only working on this week. So that's kind of awesome. Getting a whole scene done in a week is like a good motivator. I feel like, oh, cool, let me go do the next one now. I just got did I get a heart from someone? No, I got a like from Paul Gagnon. Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate that. Thank you. Vinny says, I took your Everything Must Go Retail Sunshine to Europe with me. Oh, man, I forgot to ask you how your trip was. That's awesome. Great read for me and Mini Vinny on the trains and planes. Everyone should get it. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. And if you are wondering what Vinny is talking about, Everything Must Go is the book I released earlier this year about my characters, and it's a 15-year anniversary. It's like the longest book I've ever made. And if you go to bookpeople.com and search the title that you see right there, or you can search my name, you'll find it there. And they ship, I think, like internationally. So if you're watching this internationally, you too can have a copy. Anyway, there's not much left on this storyboard page. This page, I'm working my way through, and as soon as I'm done with this page, I'm on to the warehouse. And the warehouse is a very, very cool sequence. It's a sequence that a lot of my friends are looking forward to, and they always like ask me about it. It's like a favorite thing for a lot of people. So I know a lot of my friends will be very happy to know that I'm almost ready to work on the warehouse, and I'll be working on the warehouse before this year is over. So that's really exciting for me. I think when I started animating this year, I actually started last year, but then I took a break to make the book, and then I restarted in March. So when I restarted in March, I want to say I was on scene 13. I think that's where I started in March. So from March to now, I just probably potentially finished scene 24. So there you go. So 11 scenes since March. Now, there's no right or wrong answer to how long a scene is supposed to take. It all depends on how long and how involved each scene is. So, but it's just kind of cool to be able to like measure that and go, yeah, it's been 11 scenes. It's pretty cool. Don't know how many I'll do before the end of the year, but we'll find out. And you'll find out too, because you'll be here with me. So thanks so much for joining me this week, everybody. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys maybe next week. I might have a break because I'm going to be visiting family. But if I can make it, if I can be here next Friday, I will. And the best way for you to know that is to be subscribed to me on YouTube and turn on notifications so you're alerted when I go live. But if you want to set your alarms or put it on your calendar. 9 p.m. Central Standard Time is when I start my live streams, and it's always on a Friday. So just put that on your calendar. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Feel free to go to retailsunshine.com and follow me there or become a patron. And yeah, I really appreciate all my patrons. Thanks, patrons. Appreciate you.